Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. After the second stress test and 2 weeks before launch, founder Keytotes sat down with us to answer all our big questions. Let's listen to the Q&A.
The way it works on our end for content creation is extremely similar. It has the same base principle. We don't actually delete anything. It gets toggled off. And like in the database on the production realm right now is all the NPCs and so on for future patches technically exist. You just can't see them and will never be able to see them. It's that kind of thing. It's just toggled off. So if we do come to that point, it would be entirely possible for someone to do an Epoch progressive server. So we've planned ahead in that regard, that they'd even be able to recreate Epoch as it was.
Have you got any heat from Blizzard yet?
I mean, they took down our YouTube, if that counts.
Nah, that can be automated easily these days.
They're scared.
Yeah.
I was wondering if they were going to set aside a team to DDoS on launch day.
Black market
Yeah,
DDoS from Blizzard.
Silly.
Yes, I'm sure Blizzard will commit a federal crime. Yes.
I mean, are you sure they
Yeah, I
wouldn't?
mean,
though?
Some
Yes, I'm very
employees have
sure
been
they
known.
wouldn't. I'm very sure that Blizzard would not DDoS us. That is, even the chance of something like that coming back to them would be a monumental problem for them. The FBI would get involved.
Blizzard
So I
could
have a
take it.
question.
They have very-
regarding the long-term stability of the PD side of the server. So traditionally for like WoW expansions, by the end of the expansion, there's hyperscaling going on where you either have, almost crit cap melee classes, super hasted caster classes. And there's like a maybe between raid tiers, there's like a 25% increase in actual like class power. So what's the plan looking like for power scaling for individual classes in this server? Because by the looks of it, you already have a lot of things implemented for like baseline quality of life, like spell and melee hit cap when you're just starting out in Molten Core, which normally for Classic you'd get maybe like around Zul'Gurub.
Essentially, it's just a moving target. There's a cop-out answer that I've kind of already said of things will change over time. If a particular class is scaling wildly, then that class gets hit with a nerf bat. We have done a pretty large item level squish. If you actually look at each raid tier in vanilla, there's a pretty stupid jump between them, which if you actually followed it would end up causing exactly what you're talking about. We've squished the hell out of that so that we've kind of bought ourselves many additional tiers before we have to worry about that problem, but we're well aware that that is literally just kicking the buck out. And God knows, maybe down the line there has to be a full-blown Classes 2.0, you know what I mean?
Do you think you'll ever make like irrelevant tiers upgradables where it's like maybe you add quests that can buff those pieces so it makes it relevant to still do that content?
Never thought about it, so I don't have an answer. It's a neat idea, don't get me wrong, but it's just...
Are you talking about like catch-up gear?
I'm talking about like...
It's many tiers away of a problem, so 18 months from now, Kaytotes can worry about that.
Yeah. So yeah, like, how do you plan on making old raid tiers relevant? Like, for example, like in classic ZG Bijus are still relevant because they give Zanza spirits. Do you plan on having like consumables that come or materials that come from raids that are relevant throughout the history of Epoch?
I think it'd be cool if you like added some type of material to like old content tiers, and then by killing all the trash, you collect the materials. And
my general answer is you think you do, but you don't. Unironic.
Really?
Yeah, so it's already annoying in vanilla to have to be going back and doing older raids. And that's with them being absolutely face roll raids that you can do with your eyes closed. It's already annoying. Do you really want to be going back and doing older raids when we're at tier 3, tier 4, tier 5, maybe even tier 6, when those raids are also more mechanically intensive, so you'll be more mentally fatigued from the process and can't just switch yourself off as easily?
I mean,
That's going
I
to
just
be an
want to keep
enjoyable
raiding
experience.
more often,
So
to be honest,
my
and I
recommendation,
want a reason to do it.
it's many, many years down the line, but yeah, something like Titty just mentioned is something that we've discussed where we don't want to encourage you to still be doing Molten Core when there might be some theoretical tier 6 out, for example, let's say. That's really bad gameplay. But some
Yep.
people still might want to pug that, so whatever the monstrous thing is that is forcing you to go back to Molten Core probably needs replacing. And by replacing, I don't mean deleting from Molten Core. One of the reasons that people go back and do some of these older raids is because there's very, very specific base items that they're trying to attain that there is no equivalent of. Wouldn't that be just instantly solved if the next raid that came out had an equivalent slot item that was just a higher item
Yeah.
level class upgrade, and now no one's going to want to go do Molten Core for that item anymore? Like, targeted things like that can solve the problem a lot better than as outright stopping.
Then something like Xanthas or like yeah, like that is another thing I was thinking about, because like, you know, like Thunder Fury is like the best sword until the end of time in vanilla, and it's, you know, you get it by doing Molten Core a lot.
Do you ever
And
think maybe
it's
maybe
a
you would
hot
have?
take, but you've just used Thunder Fury as the prime example. Out of the box, by design, legendaries have a much higher item level. They're meant to last considerably longer. But if it somehow still turns out that due to its effect or whatever, that people are still actively trying to get something like that multiple tiers later to the point that it's become annoying, just nerf Thunder Fury. I'm sorry, we kind of, as developers, might have to save you from yourselves and just make that item not as wanted anymore.
So what you're
But
basically
to
saying
be
is you
fair,
want true
like-
progression. You want true progression. You don't want everything has to be relevant like other P servers have done. You're wanting things to stay a little bit more sequestered. You know, tier 1 means tier 1.
Please
And it
Not
stays
God.
there.
quite to that
So-
extreme, but more a case of it's already kind of annoying at 3 easy tiers in vanilla, so it's probably going to be kind of annoying at like 2 harder tiers on Epoch, but that's still a reasonable amount. So let's say we're okay with you going back an entire other raid tier, but if you're having to go right the way back to Molten Core from 5 tiers later, something severely wrong there, and we'd have to step in some capacity.
Would you be thinking about newer players or newer characters then, in that situation where the progression's so far down the line and no one wants to do that content anymore? How would they be able to catch up? Piggybacking? and-
Yeah, that's again, it's a bridge we'll cross many years down the
I was
line.
I was
But
thinking
there is
maybe
always ways of having catch-up gear. The issue with retail is that every single patch is catch-up gear. We'd rather do it in a
Yeah.
much
Yeah.
smaller way, but it kind of has to happen eventually. Like you
Mhm.
said, new players can't be expected to always go into Molten Core, but if you've got some kind of weekly bulletin board of here is the quest of the week to go into Molten Core and kill Ragnaros, and then you're going to get pugs popping off
There you
for
go.
that week.
that's what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
Super
That's what I
Yeah,
was.
no, like, yeah, like
gonna say.
the concern with is like, okay, yeah, how are like if there are newer players later on, how are they going to be able to play Molten Core without there being even more other newer players? Like if there is like, let's say there's like a newer player that is later down the line, but that newer player, because it's like, again, like maybe a year or two down the line, that person's like really or maybe even longer, right? That person's reasonably the only, like one of maybe like 5 or 6 people who want to start with that are trying to raid and get into raiding, but there's no one to raid with because there's no reason for anyone to raid Molten Core after these tiers have been released. And so everyone that can do those is just doing those, or they're making alts and they're just powering the alts through with their guild.
I just view it as eventually content might need to be sunset. How we do that, there's literally 20 different ways to go down that path. So we'll just see what fits as and when. I don't think it's going to be a problem until
Long time.
It'll be a while before it's
Maybe
a problem.
2 tiers after Uldum, we'd have to seriously start thinking about it.
Yeah, I imagine it's more of a super long-term problem than anything, rather than like, this isn't really a concern for now. It's just like a potential concern for later.
Yeah, it's definitely one that's there. We have kind of abated it a little bit, so it's not one that we've completely ignored. But we're just well aware that that's just kicking the bucket down, and some other system change, whatever, will need to exist to make it easier for both new players to get up in gear and also to prevent higher geared people from feeling they need to go down and kill an Ixia this week, because that's going to be a pain in the arse.
Yeah.
And
I
there's
think something
also
to
the other topic that we've not discussed as well is just broader. The tiers don't always have to go up. I am perfectly fine with us releasing a content patch that is essentially tier 2.5 when tier 3 exists, where it's a little bit in between, you know what I mean? Like, we can go
Mhm.
sideways, not always up.
Yeah, and
I think something that I've always thought about was pretty much to add to this conversation about how like another game like RuneScape, it somehow it's been out for the longest, and for somehow all the tiers are relevant in some way, whether it's money making or coming back to. I'm honestly I haven't really played it as much, but there's somehow always a relevancy to come back to old content. And are you guys like, have you guys thought about that? Like, besides just staying at the tier, like a fun way to go back to old content that progresses your character in a certain way, whether it's money making or in some other manner.
No specifics, but just a general yes. Like that weekly quest idea that was briefly mentioned is a perfect example of an easy way to get people to go back and do
I love that. It's
old stuff,
amazing.
assuming the reward is good enough. But there's always regular ways of just getting people to do more stuff. Like if we've added enough dungeons that people aren't running Stratholm super often, it's perfectly reasonable for in the next content patch for there to be some form of class quest that specifically sends you to Stratholm, so that we can try and get more players in that. As a random example, it's just such a case by case basis. It's hard for me to give a blanket answer.
Kaytos, this is obviously off topic here, but what's the long-term goal for the data being sat in the UK and cease and desist and stuff?
There's a lot of legally nonsense is the general summary, and I'm just not worried about it. The laws here and in the EU are functionally the same and have been for a long time. It was us that influenced their data laws and the things that allow private servers to be hosted in the US, in the EU, and specifically not the US. So if it arrives, I'll throw the notice in the bin, like every other private server owner does. I'm not worried about it.
Based.
Like they're allowed to send a letter, and I'm entirely in my rights to ignore said letter, and I will if it arrives. But I really don't think it will. I will almost slight other private server devs and say that the overwhelming majority of like cease and desists that have, in air quotes, shut down projects, I don't buy it. I don't believe it. It's just a really, really easy excuse to throw out when you want to shut down your server.
It's not your bare metal though, is it? It's like OVH or whatever. Or,
Yeah, exactly.
or
the DB gets backed up every 6 hours. If OVH says, right, we're cutting your access, I'll just pick a different host and be back up in 6 hours. Who cares? Well, it'll take 3 hours for the DNS to propagate, if that ever occurs.
It's
Yeah, I
interesting
think-
that you think that, though, that you think that that people have used that as an excuse in the past.
Yeah, I don't buy it. Like, even Nostalrius did not have to shut down. They chose to. They died so Classic can live.
I think keeping your team as small is probably one of the best things you can do for those kind of things, because it's always internal, right? Something went wrong inside.
Any Alterac Valley leaks, intentions with it? No? Okay.
No.
Based. Based refuses to elaborate.
Just a leveling dungeon question. So I know you have Stone Talon coming up on the roadmap as an endgame dungeon, and we have the reworks for Dead Mines and Wailing Caverns. Is there anything, say, in the next year or two regarding reworking or adding things to the existing leveling dungeons, or are you going to be mostly looking towards the end game tier builds?
Nothing on the roadmap, but the roadmap is not like a cemented list of do's and don'ts. There is some flexibility there if we decide to. But part of the reason why we've been in dev for so long and built so much goddamn content is, to a certain extent, we can guilt-free ignore 1 to 60 for a bit. Because there's
I think that
already
makes
so
sense.
much goddamn stuff there that you can't really
Yeah.
complain at that point.
Yeah,
That's
fairly
encouraging.
built out. Just thinking about it. Thanks.
Like, there's a reason why we systematically went through every single zone, adding stuff to it.
Are there any plans to increase the level cap far into the future?
No.
Okay, one question about something totally off topic. When is merge?
Don't know. Like, an actual don't know. It's one of
All
those,
right.
it would... If we decided to do it, it could be set up in about 48 hours. We just haven't really decided to do it.
In regards to gear, what is the reason you choose the vanilla version of like having, for example, crit percentage instead of crit rating as it was in TBC and also in other stats, of course?
It just feels more like vanilla, and we don't like that you've got to do nonsense math with ratings per level to work out what the end result is. Just 1% is easier, feels simpler, feels old school. That's about it. That genuinely was the thought process.
I would definitely rock some Epoch merch.
Epoch.
Probably doesn't matter too much, but when it comes to future content releases, do you plan to upload like the new batches of gear anywhere to be publicly viewable for the community, or is it something we're going to have to just like data mine ourselves to like try to sweat over what to go after?
If it was something major like an entirely custom set of raid gear, like a brand new tier set appearance for every class, yeah, we'd probably show off it would be a marketing loss to not show you that what that looks like and that it exists. But in general, we're not going to be like providing a DB or anything, if that's what you meant.
Yeah, like a DB to see all the items and like their stats, drop locations and stuff.
Nope, never going to be a DB. It's fundamentally opposed to what we believe in.
Okay, so then for the sake of an add-on like Atlas loop, but tuned towards Epoch, would it be on the players then to just like data mine it ourselves, or is it? Do you just want the community to just kind of like just free ball the upgrades instead of like spreadsheeting it?
I mean, we know the community will spreadsheet it. I'm not going to stop people doing that. I'm not going to stop people making add-ons for quest helpers and so on and so forth. It's just not something we're going to put in out of the box. And the reason for that is, if you've got a DB, 0 players in-game can find an item and everyone can just see it on the DB. As one little isolated example. Same applies for quests, NPCs, etc, etc. So it's spread across the entire game. Whereas, if it's at least prevented by us, we don't provide that, and people have got to depend on A, someone has to find it in game. At least one person has to actually find the thing in game. B, are they even running the add-on to generate helpful info for the guy who's making the Epoch Atlas loot fork? Possibly not, so that means probably multiple people have got to find it, and that means there's at least organic progression, and people can keep secrets. Like, I like the fact that guilds might find quests, as an example that I know for a fact exists, where there's no quest marker and a gossip that isn't immediately obvious that eventually sends you down like a 15-20 step long puzzle that eventually leads to you getting some really good epic items that are well worth you going through that process. I fully expect guilds to keep info like that private when they find it, and that is an interesting social dynamic versus let's open up db.projectepoch.net and know where everything is and what's the point? You know what I mean? That also impacts replayability. Another reason why we're against the DB. Like, if you're going into Stratholm and you've got Ramstein there or something to kill, if you've already looked on the Epoch DB, you've looked through all the items and you've gone, right, none of them are particularly relevant for me, you might not even bother doing Stratholm anymore. You're like, I'm done. But if there's no DB, you're still going to want to kill Ramstein, because what if there's a 1% drop chance of an epic? And there are situations like that we have specifically added where we expect people to multiple weeks down the line go, what the fuck, this boss has an awesome epic that no one had a clue existed and we've been skipping over it.
Are you guys expecting the server to be wildly popular? Because from where I'm sitting, it sounds like you guys are about to usher in a new golden age of World of Warcraft.
This is all bigger than I ever wanted it to be. I don't. My expectations are all wrong. I'm fully expecting many of you to end up just sat in a queue for God knows how long. We'll see.
Is that necessarily a bad thing that it's a little bit larger than what you hoped for?
Yes and no. It's a mindset thing. This mostly comes from me, but the rest of the team are in agreement. I didn't start this project with the intent of being like the biggest private server network on the scene. I don't want to be a turtle with multiple realms in multiple regions and chasing, we've got the most player count. I am completely fine if some of you never get to play.
Speaking
But
of,
honestly,
by the way, do you have an idea based on the data what the player cap will be now, or is that still something you need to figure out?
It's variable. It's probably going to be set at something like maybe 5 for the first half an hour. Let the first wave of 1 to 5 kind of get out of that area. It'll slowly be adjusted as and when. Like, there's obviously been just under 2,000 people on in the stress test. It was 2,000 when it switched on, but it immediately crashed because of the profiler and all the free-for-all PvP, which was expected. That was exactly as designed. It was fine once it actually came up, so we know the minimum is 2,000. And that's running with all the profiler enabled and so on, which has a large overhead, so 5 is probably reasonable if we actually have everyone started spread out. Bottleneck people during that first hour, sorry, you're gonna have to put up with that, and then maybe raise the queue from like 5 to 5,500, and then eventually to 6,000, and then 6,500, and so on and so forth.
Okay, I guess thinking about that, I would want to make sure, or at least think about whether or not like there's any process for seeing if someone's running a macro to keep their spot. If
I don't know how queues in WoW work. Like, is it like when you try to log into the game, or is it like when you try to enter as a character?
It's when you try and enter the character create.
Okay.
As in the character selection, shall I say.
What was that previous question that got talked over?
Oh no, it was just me, more of a comment talking about thinking about whether or not there are macros, or at least some sort of way of seeing whether players are using macros to keep their spot despite being AFK if the queues are quite high during that launch period.
Consider that, and there's not like anything existing, but that's because I already know it would be easy to look into. Like, just query the characters, screen by who's been online the longest, and maybe go see if they're actually playing the game. Like, it's not going to be many actual cases, I reckon.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
Does anyone on the dev team have like professional game dev experience, or did you guys just decide to do this for fun?
I do, but that's many, many years ago.
Well,
cool. Did you guys figure out your plans for Thunder Fury?
Yeah.
No.
Have you worked at Blizzard for 20 years?
Worry about it yet. Definitely not Blizzard, no. Like, Thunder Fury, you won't be able to get any of the requisite materials to start the process of getting Thunder Fury during Tier 1, so don't worry about it. Sulfuras is the only legendary you have to be worried about.
Okay.
What were your expectations when you started Epoch? You said that they've wildly exceeded expectations. I mean, did you just not know how rabid private servers could be, the player base? I mean, because it can be pretty crazy with these guys.
Epoch was started with just me for a good period of time. I fully expected to just be mostly working on the server on my own, and maybe have like the long-term goal and what I pitched to the other developers who joined not long afterwards, a few months later, was if there are 2 raid teams competing, I will be happy. I think we will have 2 raid teams competing. Is
No wonder they've
essentially where we
exceeded.
are. Yeah, so and things have just grown much bigger than I expected. When more people joined, we were able to make more things, which was a self-fulfilling prophecy of the quality going up, which then meant more people were interested, which then meant it was easier to find artists, which then meant it was easier to get quality art, which then meant more people were more interested, and so on and so on and so on. And there's also undeniably a certain amount of luck that it's very, very handy that SOD died not long ago, and that can't be ignored. We've ended up with a lot of refugees that otherwise would not have been considering a private server.
Your timing for this launch is very, very good. So I think you're gonna be a very, very busy man for the next few months.
Yeah, I mean, I'm mostly here because I had a friend who was very excited for the server.
Do you plan on adding more legendaries into the game?
I can't say no, but there's nothing been planned. No one has started making a legendary in any capacity. It's not on the roadmap of a legendary must occur here. It just might occur. I'm not going to say no or yes.
Will Mage be the literal best class ever?
No, because you've got to play a mage.
Man.
This is kind of about I think we talked about this a little bit, but how like in TBC they had whatever, I forgot what it was called, that Deep Thunder or whatever, the crazy two-handed that pretty much everybody, if you wanted to be competitive in PvP, had to grab blacksmithing to make that mace. Will it be the case that, I'm sure you guys have thought about that, but will there be some times where a PvE item is so good that it would just be better to grab that versus a full PvP set?
Yeah, of course, it's going to happen. I'd be lying to you if I said no. Like, when you've added as many items as we have, there's going to accidentally be some overlap. And how that gets worked out, I don't know. I personally believe that the benefits of having the 20% reduction from full PvP set will outweigh stuff like that generally, but there's no blanket answer. We'll cross that bridge if it comes.
Are some of the houses in Goldshire like custom made by you guys? And if so, did you guys learn anything interesting when making whole new assets for World of Warcraft, like building an entire new inn, like that, something like that?
So I'm not a modeler, and our modeler is not here, so I will answer as best as I can on their behalf, but know that it's limited. So Goldshire specifically is a hybrid of custom models and alpha models that then got modified enough to be custom, because Goldshire looked very different in the WoW Alpha, and we just kind of wanted a little bit of a throwback to that, because why not? As for just generally things learned, a monstrous amount has been learned over the course of Epoch being developed on that front. People like Titty, who is a contributor in the community, have helped immeasurably on tools like WoW Blender Studio, and Nugget to obviously get us to where we are, and we've butted up against some edge cases. A simple example of that is, you'll have probably noticed it, or didn't notice, we'll see, but probably on most custom servers you've ever played where there's like a custom raid or a custom dungeon, there wasn't mini-maps for said dungeon. It just didn't work. We pioneered the mini-map generation being added to WoW Blender Studio. We were the first test case for it. First test cases for lava, first test cases for water. Just a bunch of weird stuff like that that we've had to deal with, and the tools had to be modified to support us. So there's a lot of people involved in the process who aren't explicitly developers that have contributed to Epoch existing, and overall modding benefiting. We don't have a private Nugget fork. We don't have a private WoW Blender Studio fork. Anything we do in that regard just goes up to the original upstream.
Incredible answer. Thank you.
I got a question.
Go for it.
How big is the need for endgame tanks to collect different sets to cover resistances?
Resistances will be important.
Custom items in game.
That's my blanket.
Will there be
answer to
tanks other
that.
than warriors?
Yes, definitely.
Custom items in game. Is there going to be a database for those items?
Nope, never.
I'm assuming that refers to also like no add-ons like Atlas Loot, correct? Where the database is just kind
There's
of given to you.
There's nothing I
Nice.
can do to stop the community doing that. They can do whatever they want. If they manually collect the data and fill it in, go nuts. But
Sounds
we're
good.
not providing an out-of-the-box thing.
Thank you,
You
for not
talked
doing
earlier about tanks. What about Shaman tank? Any Shaman tankers?
Shaman tank, I don't believe in Shaman tanks as a Shaman player. I don't believe in them, so that's going to upset some people. The main thing that we did for Shaman tanks was revert some of the blatant anti-tanking changes Blizzard made with the Burning Crusade. Things like Rock Biter just became useless and stuff like that. So they're kind of viable probably until about level 35-ish, and then you're going to want an actual tank. I don't have any plans to make them an actual tank. I don't personally believe it is possible to do that without too negatively impacting enhancement as a DPS.
But the original theory crafting with them is still in. At least you want to keep it that way for now.
For the most
early
part,
game.
yeah. We've slightly vanillafied in a TBC world just because Shaman tanks are kind of cool up until about 35, but then real tanks have to take over.
That's fine. At least you'll still be able to tank up to like near Scarlet, which is kind of how it was in vanilla.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a generous design approach. I think a lot of shamans will appreciate that.
Yeah, it was mainly shamans who said it sucked a little bit, and we were upfront at the time that we don't want to support it as a real tank, but we'll put it back a little bit to how it was in vanilla.
So-
I'll go ahead.
So if resistance is going to matter, are you going to increase player storage to account for that?
We'll see. I can cross that bridge if it comes.
I got a question regarding to Druid. As it knows already, we will get the advantage on hit weapon effects. That means also for the chance we got on weapons like Crusade or something like that, or also Wind Fury, Flame Tongue, or any trinket that procs on hit like Hand of Justice.
The easiest answer to what you've asked is pretty much everything except Wind Fury is the answer.
So Flame Tongues will work.
I believe so, yes. I'm not actually up to date on everything class. I will be up front. That's mainly Eridune's area these days. I just get told to fix bugs related to them.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any way we could possibly get just basically expanding on what you just said, Kay? Is there any way we could get some of those extra changes that have been made that aren't actually on the website? Could we get those uploaded to the website sometime before release?
Yeah, we will do. It's the prio has just been obviously getting the stress test out over the next couple of weeks. I'll be updating that and setting it up so that it updates automatically. It's just right now not set to do that.
Perfect.
What are your next steps after the stress test?
Some more bug fixes, some changes to encounters in the raids probably that we're still discussing that are like final changes, and that's about it really.
Do you foresee
work
any?
Work through bugs. That's about it really.
Do you foresee anything delaying the launch?
No, not particularly. Even the things that are on our bug tracker marked as launch blocking aren't even launch blocking anymore at this point. I just haven't updated the bug tracker. Like, we'll go no matter what. Bugs will exist. We can't be in development forever. There has never been a private server with 0 bugs, so it's just an acceptable amount of them. And the overwhelming, there's like 1,500-ish bugs, I think, on our bug tracker off the top of my head. and all of those except about 70 are cosmetic or low prior.
Has the team? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have just two quick question. Sorry if there has been already been asked. The first one is about the launch dates. How did you choose these dates, since MOP will be launching just before? And for someone, there is a lot of people who want to play MOP but also want to try out the server.
We'd already picked a date before Blizzard did, and we'd already locked it in because the developers have to get time off work. We have jobs. This isn't our full-time role, so we got there first, and we weren't going to change it, basically.
Okay, and the second question is about PvP. How, sorry if this question has already been asked. So, how is PvP on the server? Is it on toggle? So basically, there is a kind of Warmode on, or how does it work exactly?
I would recommend going through our website. We've got 4 full detailed pages of how PvP works.
Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you can't turn on war mode immediately, so I can't kill people in Northshire.
Yeah, you've got to be level 50 to switch on Warmode.
Yeah.
Have you?
There's no contested zones before that point, so.
Have you guys thought about like the economy of the server? I don't know, like if in case it goes like something like items becomes very like expensive, or like do you have a plan for like the economy if it goes out of hand?
Cross that bridge with it when it comes. I know that's kind of a cop-out answer, but you can feel it craft the server to death over situations that might never occur, and if the situation occurs, it's not hard to resolve it in like a maintenance window of time.
Has the team thought of? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's pretty much my end of that. Like, we will push out patches pretty regularly if there's something like truly game breaking or needs some kind of intervention. I don't see why we would sit on our hands. You know what I mean?
Has the team thought of or added content to the holidays that are had in 3.3.5, or do you guys have plans to do that?
Holidays are up in the air. There's not much to really discuss. We didn't work on them for the longest period of time because we had no idea when we'd actually come out. So we didn't know which was going to be the first holiday. So it's only recently that we've actually known that. So we'll figure out what we're doing. Expect some of the initial holidays to get skipped with that in mind, but we will in some capacity try and touch holidays.
Understood. Thank you.
Is war mode I thought I just heard something crazy. Is war mode like cross faction, or is it just against Horde versus Alliance?
No, it's not free for all. If that's what you're asking, it's you can group with people in war mode, and there's checks in place. So, dead simple example: if I don't have war mode, I'm Alliance. You have war mode, you're Horde. If you start attacking an Alliance player, I can't heal or buff you. I can't get involved in that fight because the Alliance can't attack the Alliance. So most of the scenarios that you can think of that could be weird about that have been covered by thousands of people in prior betas. Is my cop out.
Oh yeah. So will there be no cross faction grouping if you're PvP flagged? Or if you're in war mode?
You absolutely can group cross-faction. There will just be certain circumstances where we stop them being able to interact with you, such as you are a Horde attacking an Alliance, your Alliance friend who's in your party obviously can't get involved in that in any capacity, and the Alliance can't kill you, so we stop you being able to heal your friend. Just little things like that. There are buffs and auras that pop up on people that you can hover over that explain this a little bit better in game. So it should never be a surprise when you can or can't do something on someone in a PvP scenario.
I see. So, like, would there be any sort of guardrails to prevent situations from that sort of happening, or is it just sort of like accepting the risk of being in war mode, and sometimes you're in a group with an Alliance player and you can't get help because they're Alliance?
Well, you joined them. That was your decision.
Yeah.
Like, so if you want everyone in your party to be able to assist in PvP, group up with Hordes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, I'm talking like potentially like if someone else were to interfere with you, right? Like if someone were to start a conflict with you.
Well, that could only occur if you're opted in. So again, the
Yeah,
only
yeah,
thing,
yeah,
the only
that's
thing
sort
we
of like
stop
the question.
is the only thing we really stop is faction interactions that have no counter. So if you're attacking an
Yeah.
alliance, your horde and your friend is alliance, those two alliance can't interfere with each other in any way, so it wouldn't be fair if your friend could heal you.
Yeah, if
We
my
just
friend
stop
could
that
heal me
happening,
and stuff. Yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
Was it challenging to implement those buffs and debuffs and auras for your cross-faction party combat?
Hard is a relative term. More a case of it went through various iterations as and when people on the betas found more and more edge cases.
Can I ask a question about Ironman real quick? If I decide to level Ironman and I do not flag for war mode, will there ever be any chance that I can be put into a PvP mode somehow?
I'm not going to say no, never, because God knows something could occur, 1% chance. But in general, we have guardrails in place. So if a quest would flag you for PvP, for example, there will be a pop-up box that says, "This is going to flag you for PvP. Are you really sure you want to do this?" We also have things in place where, as an example, if I'm an alliance and I'm not flagged for PvP and there's a horde in front of me who is flagged for PvP, I can't even start attacking him until I opt myself into PvP first. So you shouldn't even be able to misclick, like even things like you know, a Frost Nova or whatever. AoE abilities should not be able to trigger things like that. So in general, you should be safe, but God knows if there's some 1% scenario where someone does some weird shit with a guard. I'm not gonna 100% it.
Have you guys thought about? I know Ascension has this. It's like in certain contested zones, it's only like 1 versus 1 where multiple people can't come in because I'm sure everybody's experienced this. Usually, the PvP is only fun for people that sit at home for 10 hours and are in this guild and run around killing everybody. Have you guys thought about kind of evening the playing field for people that just want to experience PvP but don't have like the like that sweat in them, or is that something that you kind of like not necessarily encourage or just like embrace because that is kind of like more of a classic type of experience?
You join a war, you get a war. You opted into Warmode, you kind of get what you deserve at that point. If you want a more balanced experience, do battlegrounds or duels.
And do you guys think that the 5% is like enough? The 5% experience buff like is enough to actually um, get people to like experience it, or do you not even necessarily? I don't want to say care about that, but not necessarily like. What is the thought process for like the 5% experience? Because that like is that even like worth it? Like for anybody that's thinking about it to try to put war mode on, like what are you thinking about that?
You've hit the nail on the head there. It is not worth it, and that is intended. The goal of the 5% experience, honor, and rep that you get with Warmode is not to incentivize people who don't like PvP into doing PvP. They don't like it. All you're going to get there, and we've seen this on other servers that will remain nameless that have a higher bonus such as 30%, all you get is people doing it who are PvE because they want to level faster, and then get salty when people actually attack them. Like, it just breeds this little silly sub gameplay that doesn't make any sense. The purpose of the 5% is to offset the time it would take you for you being killed. So you're
Yeah,
essentially, I'm going to die more, so I'll get a little bit more experience. Is kind of the mindset.
Yeah,
But
I
it's
find the
not just
complainers to be
XP.
funny.
I think it's not just XP because when you enable the war mode, the PvP mode, you then loot some tokens from
Yes.
factions, so you get the 5% XP. It's basically nothing. It's but the thing you get, the gear you get along the way, like leveling gear, not leveling gear, but low level PvP gear. That's very interesting to me.
Yeah, I like essentially cosmetics are the main reward of Warmode, and those come from the bloody tokens. And bloody tokens can also be gotten from the zone quests that you can do. That's like, kill 10 alliance in Tenaris that you can collect as an example. Every zone has an equivalent of that for each faction. They reward gold, XP, bloody tokens. So we're kind of sending people out there. So even with just that 5% on its own, if you have Warmode on and are actively engaging in PvP by taking things like those Warmode quests, you're going to get benefits beyond that 5%.
That's really
We just
cool.
don't want to give people a free bonus XP that's so high that they feel they need to get it when they don't actually want to PvP. It should be that if you see someone who's in war mode, they signed up for the suck, they want you to attack them.
That is really cool. And just tell me real quick, where does it to pick up the quest? Does it say it on the website? Like where it is? Because this is the first time I'm hearing about this for the zone
So
quest.
the way it works for the zone quests is there are notice boards in the city that show every single zone quest for your appropriate level, plus or minus a handful of levels. I can't remember the exact number. So you can default to going to the major cities to find those, but the others are kind of strategically placed in the alliance towns in each zone that you would expect to find something like that. And on that notice board, you would see that zone's quests. So go to the city if you want to see where all of them are, or just go to the alliance outpost in wherever to find the one that's appropriate. They're not going to be hidden in any capacity. They're easy to find.
And at level 15, players are able to go to Orgrimmar and Stormwind and sign up for War Mode?
Any faction capital, but yeah, sign up for war mode
Ah.
there. There's nothing stopping, there's no cost or anything to go into war mode, you're just opting in, but there is a cost to come out of it. We want it to be a slightly tough decision. And that's again, we don't want people to switch it on for 5% experience, not actually want to do PvP. Like, you're making a decision. So it's a scaling leaving cost depending on your level. So the lowest is 1 gold. So if you're level 15, instantly go to Hillsbrad, get ganked, and think, fuck, this isn't for me. That's going to cost you a gold to undo that decision, and that scales up to 50 gold at level 60.
Have you guys thought about in regards to world PvP? Um, is it the same as it was in classic WoW? Like I think it's 4 or 5 levels, or in between where they're like green to you or red to you.
Yeah, it's
Have
the
you guys
same. Yeah, it's the same exact formula. Just grey level is what it's called. And yeah, that's
have
pretty
you
cheap.
guys have you guys thought about like maybe shrinking that to like 1 or 2 levels to kind of make it a little bit more fair, if that's
It
the right
would
word?
it would be awkward to do that in just PvP concepts. The grey level, as it's called, is used all over WoW.
Ah, yes, yes, yes.
So yeah, it's not really worth it, to be honest with you. Everyone knows what they're getting into.
Is there a cooldown from when you disable war mode or opt out of it until you can opt back in?
No, no. If you want to flip flop, do that. It's your gold that you're wasting.
I have a question related to, like, I guess, future content.
Go for it.
So you obviously talked about no shaman tanks earlier, any things like that, but you have sort of buffed things like Smite Priest, I guess. Are there any thoughts for fourth specs or other alternative, like buffing other alternative off-meta strategies for classes in the future? Or are you trying to keep things roughly vanilla-esque?
There's no one answer. It will just be an evolving class meta, is how I prefer to put it. There's no way for it to be stagnant, so things will change over time. And as other topics have come up, different classes scale differently. It's just going to need direct touches across the board. So we'll see what happens.
Gotcha. Thanks.
So we've had a lot of talk about PvP in this chat. For PvE, at least, what's your long-term view on raids? Like, do you guys have X amount of tiers planned, or is it just you're going to kind of follow your own internal schedule, of course?
There is an approximate plan. No, I won't detail the approximate plan, but new content will come out. We're not going to build up to one Oldham and then be like, yeah, man, we're done. This will do.
Well, thank you guys for your time and for spending it here with us.
Yeah, it's been fantastic and fascinating too, just to hear the way the private servers work, especially this one.
Oh yeah, for sure. But can you release it now, please? Hello?
Yeah, go ahead.
Definitely.
Bro, I've been waiting for this shit for too fucking long, bro.
I know the feeling.
I just learned
I
about it
fucking have to
yesterday.
pick up Turtle WoW to so I don't lose my mind, bro. Look what you did to me.
I mean, Turtle was fine.
Turtle WoW's
That's
great.
alright. That's okay. Yeah, it's great.
Turtle WoW is why we're probably all here.
Yeah,
I mean,
pretty
I had
much.
a
I'm
great
not gonna.
time.
I'm not gonna stop playing TiVo just because of Epoch.
It's the
We have
PvP
no-
that just turns me off so hard. It's just like it's whoever clicks our buttons first, you just explode.
I mean
We have
that's just
no-
MMO PvP in general, unless both players are highly geared.
We as the developers have no negative connotations with any server in the scene. There is room for
Based.
everyone. Like, it does not need to be competitive. Honestly, the competitive Epoch versus Turtle stuff is just cringed as hell. Like,
Yeah.
we're not like close behind the scenes, but like when our YouTube account came down, I asked the guys at Turtle, like, how long did it take for yours to come back? Like, little chats like that do happen behind the scenes. They've been nothing but friendly, at least on the surface, so we aim to keep that up.
I think that's good, but there is going to be some natural competition, for the lack of a better word, just because
Yeah.
That's because the players
you're new
though.
and better looking.
It's player made. It's just a weird tribalism for free servers that you're not paying a penny for. That the only thing it costs you is your time. You can play both. You don't have to be binary.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, man, the private communities are rabid. They're very rabid.
Yeah, like
I think this idea of
it's
like
people-
a server winning is stupid.
if one of the things you really, really love about, Classic Plus projects and you enjoy about WoW is the soundtrack, you're going to enjoy Turtle more than here because they've got more custom soundtracks than we do. Like, it's binary. Each project is going to do different things well.
I think it's a lot to do with like sunk cost fallacy of time. People don't want to invest a bunch of time into a server and then feel like they're not getting the most out of it or something. I don't know, but I mean, you can just play both. Like, there's no big deal. I play both.
For free, nonetheless.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, you
literally
got a lot of
costing you
time.
nothing.
About that, is there any way we can support you at the moment?
We have a channel on Discord called Donate. That's the best way. You don't get anything for donating other than our gratitude, and it legitimately will help smooth out the bandwidth costs for launch. We will eventually have some kind of cosmetic store or merchandise, but that's quite a way away. We're focusing on getting a server out before we monetize it, rather than the other way around, which is all too common in this scene.
I would say that people who play like official WoW, if they are wanting to quit it, you should just subscribe to the GitHub with the same amount, right?
True.
I get it. There's plenty of people who are like, I'd like to give money to the project, but want something in return, and that's a perfectly valid take. Like,
You
that's
get the
reasonable.
game, isn't that great?
Yeah, you
but
get the project.
some people want a mount or a pet. I can't really judge them for that. Why not? But if you are feeling particularly based and want to just do it for the vibes, then we have our GitHub sponsors in the donate channel and linked on our website.
Epoch merch.
Surprise 2-hour playtest tomorrow?
Unlikely.
Yes.
Why?
I may have missed this because I joined late, but do you guys have any anti-botting measures that you're going to put in place?
It's been briefly discussed, but the TLDR is that anyone who tells you they've got them is basically lying, and the only anti-botting measure is humans sitting there and looking for them. So we would like to have GMs sit there and look for bots and report them higher up. But obviously, it's a long process to actually trust GMs to hire them, so I'll give it time. But yeah, we're not Blizzard. We don't have a financial incentive to keep them. I don't like bots. I don't want them on my server, so that's the general vibe.
It's also a community effort. People have to report bots, and people also have to be willing to not buy gold, because if there's no market for it, there won't be gold sellers and there won't be bots.
There's all sorts of little
There
things
will
that-
always be a market for gold buyers.
There's little things that I've considered doing as well that we've experimented with, but as I say, I've experimented with, but it would be a stupid amount of work. But I think it would be really funny is us having, say, for example, let's say 20 sets of where can ores and resources spawn in the world, and just every couple of weeks just rotate through them so that the bot profiles get out of date periodically.
Sneaky.
That's great actually.
Like it was Blizzard who had a talk who said that they were able to resolve botting on one of their servers back in vanilla by all they did was ship a patch that put a boulder there. And it took long enough for the bot developers to correct around that made a hell of a difference. Like, if all we need to do is spawn an invisible wall for a day, a human player would go, oh, there's a weird wall there, I might report it as a bug, but bots will just run into it forever. We can just interfere with them that way, if we're willing to do it.
Have you guys thought about, because people usually buy gold if they don't have the time to make money, or if it's like boring. Have you guys thought about like more interesting ways to make like money? I think this kind of ties back to like revisiting old raids or dungeons, or like giving that incentive for a high level character to run with like lower level characters in previous content that was made, and it's kind of two birds one stone. They have fun with their friends and they also make money at the same time. Have you guys thought about anything like that?
Gold is just kind of one of the de facto rewards that comes up when discussing any new feature, so I'm sure it'll be considered. There is the bonus money at level 60 for completing quests, so if you're low on money on max level and want a nice easy way to make some money, do Lawmaster.
I have this question. I asked this to the Furbolg show. I forgot his name earlier, but he didn't quite know the answer. Has the conversion of XP to gold from quests been changed in any way from how it always was?
No, it's the same as it was. It's 6 copper per XP you would have earned at the appropriate level. Funnily enough, I was looking at that yesterday.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Kind of to the same end as the guy's question a couple questions ago. With kind of incentivizing people going back to old content, maybe in the interest of like getting some more gold, do you envision Epoch being a place where you can put a system in place to actually facilitate that? So like I think of people paying for carries through like Mythic Plus on retail, for example. Is that something that they'd consider? And I don't know if this is unpopular or popular for people. For really geared players to go back and help maybe players that don't have as much time to navigate this content and actually get gold in return.
Sounds like GDKP with extra steps, so that's a ban.
Oh yeah, speaking of GDKP with extra steps.
Oh yeah, that was my next question.
What about hard reserves, especially on things like BOEs that are worth gold?
I don't have a concrete answer off the top of my head. I'd have to speak with the others.
Sounds like a
Generally, when
ban.
it comes to things like that, I lean on the side of let's not rules lawyer the hell out of it. So
are GDKPs bannable then?
correct, yes, it's not allowed.
Yeah, GDKPs are bannable. Although, yeah, like I'm specifically talking about because hard reserving items is usually a way for raid leaders to sort of make a lot of gold out of the raid without directly asking up front for a for like payment, right? Instead of making it off of the players, they make it off of effectively they accept that the gold from the raid is forfeit to the RL.
I, off the top of my head, don't have a specific answer. I will raise it with the rest of the team, and if we need to elaborate to cover that in the rules, we will. But in general, the spirit should be you're not paying gold for items other than craftables and so on and so forth, and like world drops that you're selling on the auction house.
That sounds like just
Someone asked in chat, so boosting is
That's
bannable.
nice.
The answer is yes, boosting technically is bannable, but you'd have to really struggle to do that because we've got measures in place specifically for experience boosting, where mentioning the grey level that came up earlier, As an example, if you're in an instance group and there's a level 60 and the rest of you are like level 20 something and you're blatantly been boosted through, it will check the lowest level member to the highest level member, and if that range is larger than the grey level, which is about 9 levels difference, then the XP just goes to 1. It can't go to 0 for technical reasons, but it goes to 1. So boosting is banned, but also not doable. That rule is more there if you somehow manage to work around that, I guess.
Can you elaborate about the guild running players through for like quests and gear?
Quests and gear is relatively reasonable, so you're not charging for it. Like if you're just a guild who's I'm going to help my mate and get him up there, that's fine for the most part because there's at least some variety that you're not expected to actually get the item every time. But particularly XP boosting is a nefarious problem. I think most people can agree with that.
Do you mean XP boosting as in paid XP boosting or XP boosting in general?
Just in general. Like, we don't have any differentiator between the two. A level 60 will not be able to help a lower level get a large amount of experience. Level correctly.
Hell yeah.
And this would apply to methods such as tag farming as well?
Correct, yes, it applies everywhere. Yes, there is a small amount of grief ability there, we knew that existed in as much as, a level 60 player going into a low level zone, doing one tap on a mob and taking people's experience, but we have general broad rules about don't be a harassing griefy prick and we'd just ban you if you were doing that. So the greater good outweighs that small edge case.
Have dungeon farming like sulfuric have it been changed or anything like that?
So long as everyone's within the appropriate level, you'll be fine. That's just support.
No, but I'm talking like sorry, but like solo farming it, right? So all the solo farming the graveyards as I guess a mage or.
There's no one
doesn't work.
answer to that. Yeah, so we've made some targeted changes in various places, and we will continue to do so. If there is an egregious solo gold farm somewhere, like an equivalent of Diamol Lashes, let's say, then obviously don't expect that to last particularly long, because that's clearly unintended
All right,
behavior.
good.
People are just used to that because classic vanilla were locked on most private servers, no changes, etc. So people have got used to being able to do stuff like that, whereas we'll patch stuff out if we find it.
Would the delay between finding it and getting it patched out, would that be considered exploiting though?
It would depend on if we've given a notice and B the severity of it. It's hard for us to give an exact line in the sand, but we can agree on where the line isn't, and that's generally Blizzard, which everyone is kind of under the assumption of exploit early, exploit often, and you won't get banned. If you do something and it spits out 333 gold and it took you 2 seconds to do it, and then you repeatedly do it, you can't claim, oops, it was an accident, I didn't know. It's kind of obvious something has broken there. So yes, you might be actioned, whether it be maybe probably not a permaban, but a small ban, the gold removed in that circumstance, that kind of thing.
Hey guys, I asked Aridin yesterday about the hard res rule, and he said that if you sell loot in a dungeon or hard res an item at level 60, it's not bannable. You can search his messages in the chat.
Yeah. Eridoon will know that one. I'm not privy to every conversation. Even at this stage, and me being the founder, it can't all be in one person's head.
Yeah, to be honest, that sounded like playing round robin with the whatever those orbs is, the righteous orbs kind of mentality.
For a number of clients in the same household, do you have any issues with multiple parties
you'll be
playing?
fine.
Cool.
That's come up early. Generally, you'll be fine. Multi-boxing applies to blatant things like 5 shamans running around together, and we don't support things like having 2 accounts so you can stand there trading yourself stuff to sell on the auction house. But there's no automated means to detect that wouldn't also false flag thousands of people. So don't get
Sounds good.
reported. The shadier you are and the sneakier you are, the better. I know it's odd for a server admin to outright say that, but I'd rather not lie to you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, all right, yeah. So like Yeah, so in the case of potential false flags, right, is there any way to protect yourself from a false flag other than like a GM, maybe like a GM report? I don't
There's
know.
not, for things like multi-boxing, that there is no automated flag at all. Because we
Yeah,
know
there's no automated flag, but like for example, if you are reported by a player for whatever reason, like what are the steps you take to investigate a player to make sure that they are multi-boxing or not?
it depends on the case. There's no one
All right.
answer. In the case of multi-boxing, it's honestly often as simple as just teleport
Just
to
looking
the
at
player
them.
and watch them for 5 seconds. It's usually
Yeah,
pretty
just go.
obvious who's multi-boxing.
Yeah.
Like
Are
if
you
you
trying
want
to?
like, if someone's
about
like
the
playing
people-
with their girlfriend and their girlfriend is following them, like follow can be on for an extended period of time. It would be more when they're actually like entering combat and stuff that we'd be paying attention. So, oh god, they've all casted perfectly at the same time. There's clearly something funky going on there.
I
Yeah,
see.
most things. If people say there's automation, they're probably duping you. The only thing that can resolve stuff like that is actual GMs on the ground, and that's the sole reason why it's amped up so much on Blizzard Realms, is because they fired 3/4 of their support staff, so there's no GMs anymore.
Hey, just to clarify, you're not allowed to log into accounts and trade yourself in the city, right?
Nope, nope, that's multi-boxing as far as I'm concerned.
So if I report someone for that, how do they get banned? Because they likely won't be caught in the act.
That is when we would then start to look at things on a more human level, retroactively. Like, we're not going to use IP as an initial metric to flag people, but if someone has been flagged with a manual report, we would then factor that in of, oh, they're on the same IP, let's put that in a little checkbox, it's its own thing. Have they only been trading to themselves? Do they generally only log in together? Is it not moving? Like, there's many, many tells that can't really be automated that require human intuition to look through them.
Yeah,
And
that's good stuff.
if
Thanks
it
for
goes
explaining
through that, then yeah, we might go, right, this needs actioning. It's blatantly what's going on.
How about people getting reported for like just getting a report like spam reported? How will that be dealt with? Like, would you just look into that person being reported and see like, okay, this guy is not being, he didn't do anything wrong?
There are no automated responses to mass reporting, unlike Blizzard.
All
It
right,
would
all right.
be a case of we look into it, but we do also have an explicit rule of false reporting. If you are blatantly doing something like half of your guild has all reported the same dude, I'm probably going to ban your guild, not just the people who did it.
Based.
Is there a timer on mail if you're mailing an alt?
Yes, it's like an. I think account to account is instant, maybe. I can't recall. But if not, it's an hour.
Yes, account to account is instant. 1 hour for everyone else.
Yeah.
Nice.
What about VPNs? I saw a comment about there being a way of or some sort of avenue of getting authorization for VPN usage or something like that.
We do have a whitelist baked into the system. As to how people get put on said whitelist is a bit in the air at this moment in time, but it has been built with that capability in mind.
And how does that work? Is that something that people would need to reach out about getting that kind
That's
of
the
thing?
bit that I don't have an answer for yet. There is no formal process for it. It's just been built in such a way that when we have a process, we can do it.
Okay, cool.
That's a great question. My friend uses a VPN because he lives in bumfuck Alaska, basically. Tries to use it to get better
What's
ping.
that? Like
if it
you set your
works.
location to the UK and you have a better ping?
It depends. He doesn't always get a better ping, but
Every now and again, a VPN's routing through their servers will be a little bit faster than your ISP's chosen routing, so there are the odd circumstances where a VPN can actually reduce ping, but it's infrequent and very circumstantial.
yeah, his latency is usually terrible, so he just hopes that it works, basically.
But that's pretty much me for QA stuff. I've been sat here for like 4.5 hours, and I've run out of nicotine about half an hour ago, so I don't have much time left in me now.
Smoking's bad.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Appreciate all the work.
Bro, go chill out. We need you in 2 weeks.
Sounds like a plan. See you later.
That's the end of our Q&A. Huge thanks to Keytotes and to you for the great questions. Remember that Project Epoch launches July 26th. If this helped you, hit like and subscribe, and please leave a comment on your favorite thing about Project Epoch.